we thought of a super interesting way of discussing and breaking down for you what actually goes behind a mission. So how much planning takes place, and when weapons are introduced onto the battlefield, new technology is introduced, what kind of research goes on behind it, how many years does that research happen for, and what does collaboration actually look like? That and more behind the battlefield right here on the show. My name is Toya Singh.
That's right, I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor, and this is going to come to you from voices who've actually done this, who've sat very quietly as a lot of these episodes have unfolded. But also on the program, CBSE results, they are out. Right. Yes, we talk about it every year a new story to look forward to and understand how they made it happen. This time it's a really interesting one because a person from humanities has got almost the perfect score. So we're going to sit down with the toppers to bring you your morning dose of inspiration. Let's get started. Radar, satellites and systems, the tech behind the strikes, what powers India's strike grid. India's air defense runs quietly until it actually hits. How missions are actually planned. Radar room is India's first line of defense. What's happening there? We'll bring you a download.
And as India's battlefield tech takes off, and we focus right here on the show on homegrown drones and different technology that has global capabilities, we talk about how this story has become possible over the years. As we reach a point slowly of no imports and no dependence, what does it take for the country to actually build for combat? We talk a little bit about India's private sector and how it's gotten combat ready over the years.
Also coming up on the program, the Bengaluru breakthrough heads to the border, a lab bench to frontline bleeding control, FibroPlug, India's bleeding edge battlefield tool. Now, how exactly does it work and what this innovation is all about? Coming up, a special report.
And then, as we promised, two toppers with two stories. They're young, they're focused, and they are driven. What does it take to have a picture perfect ranking once the board results come out? We bring you two toppers. There's Shloka Upadhyay and Ananya Puri, and they tell us about all their study mantras and what their dreams are for the future.
Alright, while missiles and drones may dominate headlines, India's defense backbone is held together by what you actually don't see. It's radars, satellite grids, and the quiet warrior operating them. For every retaliatory strike we report, there are weeks of real-time surveillance, signal tracking, technical precision behind it. Now, Squadron Leader retired Deepthi Kala joins us now to take us through everything that actually unfolds, and we wanted to understand how does it actually work. So much of the conversation in the past couple of days has been about the radar system, the web of security that we sort of take our borders through.
Right, and before we go over to the Squadron Leader, just stay with us for a second. We want to tell our audiences a little bit about you. You're a former IAF technical officer. You've worked on the Integrated Air Command and the Control System, that's called the IACCS. It's a critical part of India's air defense strategy. You were the first woman officer trained on the mobile AD radar system, and you were part of both humanitarian and high alert operations, right from the J&K floods that took place a few years ago to the Galwan Valley standoff. As we decode India's strike preparedness, we thought we need to look at the tech that keeps us a step ahead and the people like you who never log off from duty. So, Squadron Leader, if we could come to you for the first question. Before we go ahead, can you tell us a little bit about how long you've served and what your core operations were?
I'm Squadron Leader Deepthi Kala and I've served the Indian Air Force for 10 years. I was commissioned in July 2009 and was posted to places like Shillong in Northeast, then Jammu, then Bagdogra again in Northeast, and then last was Delhi. The operations that I've was very actively involved in was Jammu J&K flood operations, as I was posted there. So hence I was actively involved in that. And in the last posting, in the Galwan Valley operations, I was involved. We were looking after the satellite imagery of our border areas during that. So I was working in conjunction with ISRO, that is the Indian Space Research Organization. I was a technical officer, primarily working on IACCS, that is Integrated Air Command and Control System, that has had a major role to play in our recent India-Pak conflict that we had. And also, I'm the only woman officer, or the first woman officer in the Indian Air Force who got trained on mobile AD radar system.
Right.
That is again air defense radar systems, wherein we detect the enemy targets and the weaponry and all that for our air defense. So that has been my journey. I've also done the Republic Day parade in the year 2015 when Barack Obama was a chief guest. And also the same year I was awarded the commendation, that is for devotion to duty from the AOC in C. The journey has been really great and learned a lot, and it has shaped me who I am today.
Lovely, lovely, ma'am. Can we then go ahead and sort of get down to understanding all the work that goes behind? You mentioned the radar system. Now, what's unfolding behind the scene? How do you prep for operations? How does sitting in a room tracking every drone really look like?
Yeah, 100%. So, see, when we talk about a mission or an operation, it is much more deeper than what we see as a public. Like, be it any surgical strike or the rescue operations or the peacekeeping missions. So, what people generally don't get to see is the weeks and the sometimes months of preparation, and there are times like operations. Like J&K flood operations or earthquake rescue operations or Kerala flood relief operations. Those are very ad hoc things because you don't plan it. But then the Indian military service, or for that matter, for any military service, there is one quote that I would like to quote is, we bleed more in peace so that we bleed less in war. So that's the agenda that we always follow. Every mission is built on layers of training, simulation, physical endurance, and mental toughness, of course. Even something as simple as a night patrol in hostile terrain has layers like route reconnaissance, enemy pattern analysis, backup plans, escape routes, communication drills, and weapon readiness. The thing is that preparation is not just physical, it's psychological. And we always prepare to stay calm under fire. You rehearse till your body reacts faster than your brain. And that's the level of preparation the forces always live by, because in the battlefield, there are no retakes.
That's true.
Squadron leader, you just said it yourself when you said that we bleed more in peace than we do during wartime. In a sense, what you mean is that a soldier is always on duty. But can you tell us a little bit about what that preparation, that kind of relentless pursuit actually looks like?
Depends from the kind of operation that you are getting in. Like if I look at, always remember that the Indian military services are always training in behind, right? In the back end, we are always getting trained. Every day is a training. We are always in an operation mode. There is a saying that goes in the movie industry also. We always say that a soldier is always on duty. So that's what we live by. So giving a particular timeline won't be a justified answer because it all depends upon mission to mission. So for Pahalgam attack, of course, we had to take a little bit of time in order to understand what is it that we are going to target, where is it that we are going to target, and that is the time that our Indian military services has taken to prepare for those operations, and then we struck on 7th of May. So that is the time that we have taken. Again, if it's a natural calamity, then it's very like I'll remember J&K flood operations in the early morning hours around 5 or 6. I got a call that we need to set up the SATCOM, that is satellite communication. So I immediately took on my scooty, and then my unit was 8 kilometers away from my place. With whatever rigs you have, just the bare minimum you put on, and then you are running towards the unit and then setting up the entire system, because then time plays a role. So I had to set up the entire system and report to the command that, everything is set up now. We have hotlines and communication on between Srinagar and Jammu, and then the units that we had in Himachal, so that operations could take place. So that's, time is very depending upon the objective of the mission rather than a single timeline that is there for the mission. There's no single or static timeline. It's all depends upon the objective of the mission and when and how that mission is taking place.
I'm so glad to have you on the program today also, because there is so much of glory that goes into combat, so much of glory that fighter pilot gets, and perhaps not so much on the technical side, but great to understand the details that are unfolding even on the technical side, especially, satellite imagery, something that you work with. That's sort of taken center stage in this entire Operation Sindoor as well. Its importance cannot be stressed enough upon. If you had to sort of explain what satellite imagery actually does to perhaps my grandmom sitting at home trying to understand, how would you simplify it?
Now the satellites are hovering around the earth and they have a particular time on which they come on that particular target. Let's say I have to take images of Pakistan-India border, whatever is happening, whatever right now is happening, what kind of movements are being taking place on the border lines. Okay, so now I know as a technical officer that at what time my particular satellite is coming on that area, which will be covering the images of that particular area that I need. So again, if the information has come to me today and the satellites are already gone over that, okay, of course there are multiple satellites working, but then I'm totally dependent on the time that satellite is going to come on that particular point and give me that image. So again, so you see how it is, so the time that you're asking for is so dependent on multiple factors, system, the kind of mission, the timings, so many things,
Can you similarly explain to our squadron leader what radar monitoring is? Can you explain that?
There is a system, the radar, which is moving, and it is it is taking the reception of the heat that is coming from the enemy threat that is coming, probably an aircraft or a missile or a drone or whatever. Okay, and we have a screen like a monitor with us, wherein it is converted into a blip. A small blip that you would have seen probably on a lot of social media also, you can see, or you can Google it. So it's a small dot that we see. Now on that small dot there are a lot of information also that carries, like there are signal codes, to identify whether it's a friend or foe. Now I'll take you through a little bit about, we've been talking about, in fact our Prime Minister has talked about it, that Pakistan has taken the shield of civil aircraft. How did I come to know sitting in India? How did my officers come to know that it was a civil aircraft? Was because of this, that on the radar system the code was matched. If it's a friendly aircraft or a foe aircraft, that is it an enemy aircraft? Okay, it's not a military code. So if it's not a military code, it means it's a civil aircraft. So that is how we could judge easily that it's a civil aircraft, and Pakistan is taking it as a shield to send other threats to us, because India again had or have a policy that we take the lives of civilians to the paramount security. Like we couldn't have done that kind of injustice to the civilian aircraft, that even if we have to kill or destroy the enemy threat, we will just shoot the missile. We cannot do that. So that is so now you see how many different objectives are being done or achieved by the AD system.
Right. It sort of seems like what you do and what so many others like you do is sort of be the eyes and ears of the entire system, and everything moves according to what you guys spot, which is so critical. But let's move on slightly from the technical side to understanding what does it really mean to being a woman officer today, working with some of the most sophisticated tech. tech not really associated with women, combat and very sophisticated crafts again not associated with women, yet here we are talking to you.
Yeah, so that's the favorite question that I usually get, and I really love to answer this one. So, Sonal, I was probably very young in age when I decided that I wanted to wear the uniform. Very young. Probably I was meant for that. And I always pray to God that in whatever lives He gives me, probably 10, 20 or 84 lakhs, yoni that we say in Hindi, I just want to be a soldier. So, for me, wearing the uniform is an emotion that, no words can describe it. It's not just the cloth stitched together. It's for me, it's courage, commitment, and country sewn together into my skin. So the moment I clearly remember the moment I would wear it, I would just stop being an individual. I would feel like becoming the part of larger than myself. As an officer, you carry the hopes of, or probably as a soldier also, you carry the hopes of 1.4 billion people that we have in the country. You walk taller, but with responsibility. Like, even if I have to be at a place, probably any civilian person might get delayed for 5 minutes, but when it comes to me, I would always see it from the angle of responsibility that no, as a military, Deepthi could be late, but squadron leader Deepthi could not be late, right? So that's the angle that I always carry with myself. And there are sacrifices too, of course. You miss your birthdays, probably Diwalis, and festivals like that. But whenever you ask a soldier about this, they'll always say it's worth it, because there's nothing more fulfilling than serving a cause bigger than yourself. It humbles you, it hardens you, and most importantly, it transforms you forever. And as an ex-military officer now, even when we hang up the uniform, it never leaves us. It becomes part of who we are.
Beautiful.
Squadron leader, in the last few days, there are two other women who, the media, the nation actually has gone gaga over. There was Colonel Qureshi and Commander Vyomika. They were sort of seen as the face of Operation Sindoor. Did that mean something to you personally?
Yeah, so that is another question, very dear to my heart, because I clearly remember that day when I saw Wing Commander Vyomika and Colonel Qureshi there, because I was like, oh damn, this is what I was waiting for. Because there was a time when there were no women officers in the Indian Defence Services. Then there was a time when we started taking them, but then they were very much in small batches. Then we slowly started to increase the numbers of women officers, and still, like, we are around probably if I count in Indian Air Force itself, if I'm not wrong, we are hardly in thousands,
Yeah.
I remember my SSB also, out of thousands of women who had come for the SSB. If I talk about till the last selection, that is the medical, okay, we were 21 in the medicals, and I was the first one who cleared it without any temporary rejection. A lot of it, probably 99% of it, of the women who had appeared or who had cleared the SSB had got temporary rejection for some or the other purpose. So that's 1.4 billion people, and then some thousands of officers in the military services, women officers. So it's like, oh damn, I think this is one of the greatest decisions of the Indian military services when it comes to showing that we are coming at par, like we are treating women officers at par. So that was the first thought that came into my mind, like, okay, now we are going to combat also, we are briefing a full operational mission to the entire country. So I felt so proud, and I was like, this is opening doors for all the girls in the country.
It's coming across as well. Squadron Leader Deepthi Kalra, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for explaining us all the technical details, and also then what really lies within the heart of a soldier, and especially a woman officer. Beautiful,
right,
no?
Right, and thank you for your service. Okay, let's move on now from this. Let's take you now from speaking to someone who's actually coordinating the efforts right at the forefront to the behind the scenes. In the face of rising threats and terror from across the border, India isn't just retaliating with resolve, but it's responding with tech. While missile strikes in POK sent a clear message to Pakistan, the bigger picture lies in what's powering India's new doctrine. So we're focusing on the show on homegrown systems, homegrown tech, and a growing private sector role in defense.
Now, the Akash air defense system developed by DRDO and Bharat Dynamics is already deployed along our sensitive borders. Indigenous radar systems are tracking low altitude threats, and for the first time, Indian drones designed and tested by domestic startups, we got some of them on the program just this week, are being positioned for military and surveillance use in real world operations. So we thought, let's take that a step further, and joining us next is Nikunj Kampani. He's the advisory board member of the Airspace Industries. Hi, good morning. Nitin, thank you so much for joining us. Before you came in, we just had this very inspiring conversation with a retired squadron leader, but let's shift focus to tech now. And we want to understand, how your company, what kind of work are they really doing? First, just tell us a broad overview of what is it that you guys do and that you're developing.
So we at Airspace Industries Limited, we are actually, we have an initiative called Air Shield. And we are trying to develop smart drone-based weapon systems, which is completely unmanned. And so we have various versions of that, which is, starting from surveillance to recognition to identification of objects from very, very high level from the ground. So it starts with recon systems, then it goes to the loitering munitions, then we are creating drone-based kamikaze drones. So these are the 2-3 sections that we are aggressively working on right now.
So, Nikunj, if we could actually ask you to break it down for us. So properly tell us, right from the battlefield, so right from the drawing board rather, start us there, tell us what does that journey look like. So say there's a new tech that is developed by a private player like you for defense use. How long does it typically take for it to reach from the drawing board into the battlefield? What kind of field testing happens? How closely are you typically working with the defense forces?
Yeah, so it all begins with the ideation, the imagination, basically the selecting the right problem, understanding the right problem statement on the ground, and then aligning the right technology which will address it effectively. So it is just about it is not just about building some drone technology and just giving it to them, but it should actually work in the scenario where it is where the technology is actually needed. So there is a lot of imagination because we are building up the tech which is not available,
right,
which does not exist, right? So there's a lot of imagination is to be done. There's some feedback from the forces also, from the situation that we see around, and we try to imagine a technology. Okay, this is what we feel that it's going to solve the problem of our armed forces. So it starts from there. After that, the designing, then there is a complete engineering. Then we get into the procurement of equipments, material. Then there is prototyping.
Is this years long?
Testing.
This process that you're discussing, does it take like 5 years? Give us
not 5 years, but yes, it's an tedious task which takes at least 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
So a lot of time goes in testing, actually, the field trials and field testing. There are a lot of simulations. So basically there are two type of drones. One is multicopter and one is fixed wing. So multicopter is pretty, you can say, simple in architecture. So it's very, so a lot of, you can say a lot of startups and other companies are already doing a multicopter, but the fixed wing is a real task. So it's like an aircraft. So it's a small aircraft, but it has all the parameters and all the functionalities of an aircraft. So it takes that many 50 almost. I was talking to my technical team. Almost 1,500 parameters to be calibrated before the flight can be taken off. And then there is a lot of fine tuning, multiple avionics working together, integrating together on a software. So we have developed our own indigenous software also, which we call it as AirOS. So it takes care of multiple flights at the same time, and say around it can handle around 256 flights in an instance. It can handle that, and so all the avionics and integration of GPS system, the flight controllers, the barometers and everything
Sure.
is so integrated, closely, tightly integrated. So it's a very complex technology, but yes, I believe India is doing very well in developing drones, and the startup ecosystem has flourished like anything in recent years.
Yeah, talking about that, Nikun, just on your cue on how India is doing so well, it is perhaps to be noted that India has long relied on imports, right, for critical defense technology. But what changed in the country in the past decade, I think, or so, where we've seen so many private players, startups, young people we speak on the program with kids who were perhaps conceiving this idea when they were in school, and now they're a full grown startup, now they're working with DRDO. It's a dream, really. What has changed in the system?
Yeah, so the most important thing was the accessibility. Basically, whenever there was a startup or maybe an engineer or anybody, they would have never thought of working with the government or defense forces or anything, because there was no road how to reach them. They were not accessible, and there was no option where or no guidance also. So now in last one decade, I believe there are a lot of policy changes done by the government. There are a lot of say initiatives that have been started by the government, like IDEX is there, Make in India is there. They have completely changed the defense acquisition procedure. The arms and ammunition or the technology that defense buys, they have completely changed the procedure. There have been funds specifically, you can say, dedicated to startups for technology development and stuff. So the fund accessibility is there. Then there is policy change has been done, and then government has started believing in the startup ecosystem, the Indian startup ecosystem. They are not like, okay, we want to get some technology from France or Israel or Russia or somewhere or US. They have started adopting step by step. They have not overnight. It's not happened overnight, but they have started adopting technologies that are homegrown, and they are actually. I'm surprised that they are actually implementing it in the warfare, and they are actually doing trials on that. So there's a good feedback loop also from the forces side. From the DRDO also is very aggressively helping with the problem statements on the ground. So there's a good amount of information also available now. So that makes very easy.
You touched on it right now. India has traditionally been an importer, and that has changed with the Make in India push over the last few years. But just tell our audiences, for us to even become an exporter one day, and a full-blown exporter, can you just tell our audiences which niche areas of aerospace or defense tech could give India that edge? What are we already developing that you think is most easily exportable?
Basically, the current startup ecosystem is focused on deep tech, AI-driven softwares, and they are also getting deep into the hardware, special kind of avionics to be integrated. So I believe the AI-based ecosystem, the AI-based software, wherein there is complete unmanned warfare systems that can be deployed on the security borders, is the technology which I see everybody is working on. And I see that on the software side of this ecosystem of drones and technology, I see that there are hardly any countries who have their own software. So now in India, we have also developed our own software. Plus, I see that Indian startups, there are many more who has developed their own software. They are actually reducing the dependency from the foreign players. So on the hardware side, we were okay, we were good and strong, but on the software side, we were always dependent on the West. So now we are actually getting the softwares indigenous, and that makes it, I think, the strongest point with Indian technology that can be exported. So it's a complete solution. It's not an hardware or software, but it's a complete integrated solution, which makes more sense to export.
We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with all your future endeavors. Keep working at it and keep, like we said, taking the drone flag high for India. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good day.
All right, after that, let's move on now to something slightly different. But this is a topic we're going to continue to keep our focus on right here on The Breakfast Club. Shifting focus though, on the other side after the break, two toppers with two stories. Young, focused and driven. We are bringing you the stories of two holders, rank holders, people who topped the board exams and they didn't just study the syllabus, they took their prep one step further. This is going to be Shloka Upadhyay and Ananya Puri, both of them joining us right here in studio. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
That was a fantastic discussion going on there, and I wish I could have joined you because it was really, really insightful. But we're joined by Lauren Dagan-Amos, who's in India specialist. She's a foreign policy expert. Thank you very much for joining me. There are many, Ms. Amos, there are many who are saying that if India was in such a strong position against Pakistan, why did it agree to what is effectively a ceasefire without preconditions? That is what is being said here in our country. First, what is your assessment of the Indian military action and its subsequent decision to agree to an understanding, so to speak, that has led to a ceasefire?
So thank you so much for having me here. It's a complex answer, but it's very straight. I don't think that India went to a ceasefire without agreements, without conditions. Okay. As you can see, this crisis, it's not the usual crisis between India and Pakistan. It's a strategic shift that India did in the foreign policy, in the strategy, defense policy. India responds not only with military efforts, but with a clear message. Terrorism will no longer be treated in a separate issue. It's an act of war, and it's very important. It's this very big shift in the foreign policy and defense policy that Narendra Modi brought to India. Even now, we can see in the de-escalation, India is showing that it's not a weakness; it is strength. On India terms, I think India went from this crisis very strong, actually.
Very strong. Well, there is a lobby here that says that India should have signed a formal, they should have dragged Pakistan to the table and signed a formal ceasefire agreement in writing. How realistic and responsible is this observation?
I think that if India wants to be a responsible country, which is, she needs to do something with the Hindu agreement and the Shimla agreement. It's very important because this agreement was the basic talking with India and Pakistan during a crisis time. And it's very important that you should go back to the table, and you will see what can you bring now, which kind of new agreements about the Indus agreement and Shimla agreement. So before the ceasefire, I think this.
Welcome back here with the Breakfast Club. Now, over the past couple of days, we've been bringing you lots of stories of what actually happens in combat, but a different take at it. This one also is an innovation story, a battlefield injury, which is a precious seconds are lost, right? And a homegrown solution that could mean the difference between life and death. A student project at Bengaluru's IISc has now become the standard issue in India's defense medical kits.
Right, we're going to talk about a solution that was introduced. It's called Fibro Plug. It's a bleeding control dressing, a dressing that actually controls the amount of bleeding that can take place. It's developed by a startup that's rewriting the rules of trauma care. And our colleague Harish Upadhyay actually brings you this story. He spoke to the founders. It's a story of science, silk, and a breakthrough that's saving lives at the front line. Take a look. A breakthrough from a Bengaluru lab is now saving lives on the battlefield. A student project born in India's premier science institute has transformed into a critical medical innovation that the Indian armed forces are deploying in border zones. It started with a simple question: how do you stop bleeding quickly in the chaos of combat? The answer came from a collaboration between the Indian Institute of Science and a startup, Fibro Wound Care. Their product, Fibro Plug, is a life-saving hemostatic dressing designed to stop bleeding in under 2 minutes. So, how does it work? Fibro Plug uses chitosan, a polymer extracted from the shells of crabs and insects. Its unique positive charge helps trigger rapid clotting. When applied to a wound, the foam dressing absorbs blood and converts into a gel that seals the injury.
The base material is something of chitosan, and it's something that you get, it's basically a polymer, and what these materials have something very unique is a charge on that, and that is well known to be a good inducer of blood clotting. So what then happens is, if you make a plug or a foam out of it, what would happen is, then if you press it against a bleeding site, then it would of course soak up the blood, and that triggers a lot of clotting processes. Essentially, proteins in your blood start to react with the material, and they form a gel which stops then further bleeding.
What sets Fibro Plug apart is its incorporation of silk. Unlike conventional dressings that stick to wounds and risk-free bleeding during removal, the silk layer ensures easy, pain-free removal, a critical feature in emergencies.
60% of deaths happens because of excessive bleeding due to hypervolumic shock. Hypovolemic shock in the field case, and when you have injuries, bomb blast and others, these things are quite common, injuries is common. That's where it was very helpful. It takes almost about close to its 30-35 times its weight. So the ability to coagulate. Okay. And even if you see, this has been applied, and moreover, it will maintain its integrity. We also have another variant which is which is called EG peel, which makes it easy to remove.
After rigorous testing and approvals, full-scale manufacturing began in late 2024. Today, Fibro Plug is being used by 30 defense units, from field hospitals to high-altitude forward posts.
Karnataka and Bangalore is the heartland of silk production. Now, one of the value-added uses of silk protein is medtech. So, in medical technology itself, there are numerous opportunities. But this company is dedicated for medical applications of silk.
A polymer from a crab, silk from a cocoon, and the will to innovate. Bengaluru's Fibro Plug is not just a dressing, it's a defense tool, a medical breakthrough, and a powerful example of how Indian science is saving Indian lives. With Harish Upadhyay, Bureau Report, CNN News 18.
All right, quite a cool innovation over there. And now also staying in the domain, post-Operation Sindoor, a new front has opened in India's standoff with Pakistan. And this one's on the holiday calendar. With Turkey and Azerbaijan backing Islamabad, calls for a nationwide travel boycott has been growing louder.
Travel giants, trade bodies, they're seemingly sending out a message: don't fund those who stand against India. But how deep is that backlash actually? Is it beyond the headlines? This is a detailed report on how Geopolitics is seemingly shaping travel plans. Take a look.
After missiles, it's money. After airstrikes, it's airline tickets. India's post-Operation Sindoor retaliation is now playing out in a new form: tourism. When Turkey and Azerbaijan backed Pakistan following India's strikes on terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, something shifted. This time, it wasn't just diplomatic disapproval, it was public rage. India witnessed its tourists shutting their wallets, and the private sector following suit. Travel platform Ease My Trip fired the first corporate shot. Traders called for a boycott, social media exploded, and now a wave of cancellations is underway.
This is not an isolated decision. Ease My Trip in the past, about a year ago, when there was a standoff between India and Maldives, Ease My Trip was the only one which has taken a call to ban Maldives on its platform. Only after 8-9 months, when Maldives started Welcome India campaign, our honorable external minister Jaishankar ji visited over there, and after getting multiple requests from their tourism department, after they have done a lot of course correction, we resumed our operations with Maldives. So this is not an isolated decision. Ease My Trip always stands for nation first and business later.
Ease My Trip hasn't blocked any bookings yet, but the line has been drawn. The company has issued a travel advisory against visiting Turkey and Azerbaijan. The rationale? Many use Istanbul as a layover hub for Europe or the United States. So for now, it's not a ban, but a warning and a message. The economic impact is already showing. Ease My Trip says Turkey bookings are down by 22%. Azerbaijan is down even more, 30% and climbing. Make My Trip says bookings for Azerbaijan and Turkey are decreasing by 60%, while cancellations have surged by 250%. The value of that loss is massive.
ये अभी जो हालत चल रहे हैं पाकिस्तान और भारत के युद्ध छिड़ा हुआ है उसमें ओपनली टर्की ने पाकिस्तान को सपोर्ट किया।
लगभग आप बात करें तो 14 से 18 लाख टन माल आयात भारत के अंदर होता है, जिसके अंदर एक बहुत बड़ी भागीदारी लगभग 70% की टर्की के आयातित माल की है।
करीब 18 लाख टन जो माल पूरे साल का अप्रोक्स आता है उसमें 70% टर्की से आता है, जो करीब 2,500 से 3,000 करोड़ का होगा।
Over 3.3 lakh Indians visited Turkey in 2024, a 20.7% jump from the year before. An average spend per tourist is 80,000 rupees approximately. Total potential hit to Turkey is about 4,300 crores. Azerbaijan saw 2.43 lakh Indian tourists in 2024, up by a whopping 108% from 2023. Estimated contributions from Indians for Azerbaijan stands at 2,900 crores. Weddings, adventure trips, Indian footfall built up their travel economy, and now it could all vanish. It's not just one company or one politician anymore. CAIT, a major traders body, has backed the boycott. So have companies like Wander On, Ixigo, Cox & Kings, Go Homestays and Travomint. Bookings suspended, Turkish Airlines delisted, Apple imports stopped, Turkish marble dropped. In Goa, villas are no longer accepting Turkish guests, and social media is flooded with voices demanding a complete travel ban. Turkey and Azerbaijan earned this anger. After India's strikes on terror camps under Operation Sindoor, both countries backed Pakistan. Turkey called India's strike unprovoked aggression. Azerbaijan stood in solidarity with Pakistan. Even more damning, Turkish Songar drones were used by Pakistan against Indian targets. Now, this isn't a short-term reaction. Maldives walked back its anti-India stance in months, but Turkey and Azerbaijan may not. Their pro-Pakistan positions are ideological. Their weapons deals are strategic, which means this boycott could be long and sustained, and the message it sends is clear. India-Turkey trade stood at 83,200 crores in 2023-24. Indian investment in Turkey stood at 1,008 crores. And Turkish investment in India stands at about 1,680 crores. Despite diplomatic goodwill like Operation Dost, where India sent NDRF teams and aid during Turkey's earthquake, it has all now been overshadowed.
All right, let's move on from that and switch tracks, switch moods completely here on the program, because we've got some really intelligent, some really smart women joining us on the show. Now, this morning we're joined by two CBSE toppers who've aced their boards, but that's the least interesting thing about them. One scored 499 out of 500, almost perfect, and wants to become an IS officer. Shloka Upadhyay is here with us in the studio from Ghaziabad.
Now, the other wrote someone else's board exams last year as a scribe, and then this year has gone ahead and scored 98% on her own. Ananya Puri. So we've got two minds here, two very different stories that we're going to be getting into just a second. This gets much deeper than marks. So let's ask you a little bit. First, the most obvious question that everyone loves to ask, which is, kaise kiya? How did you get these marks? What are the secrets that you have for everyone? Start us off there. Ananya, maybe you. Tell us a little bit of advice for people who are doing it, who are in the process next year.
Yes, I'd say a strong hold on the concepts is definitely the most important thing. No matter how many questions you practice or how many times you read the chapters, one twisted question can change all of that. So really understanding the concept is the most important thing in my opinion. So that's what I focused on. And obviously besides that, sample papers and questions, and then if you get a question wrong, then revisit that topic until you don't get any questions wrong. That is how I did it.
Okay, sounds like a very picture perfect thing. But Shloka, you've got 499 out of 500. I'm still trying to sort of wrap my head around that. And why I think this is so critical, because you have humanities. I can understand a PCB kid getting 499, but in humanities, kitna, like, are you can I be like sort of ask you this question? Are you a ratta kind of a person? Because, or in humanities there is just so much to read. Like, how did you do this?
If I have to be honest, I think everybody, when you think of humanities, because it is theory, a lot of people are like that you do rote learning.
Yeah.
You just keep learning and learning and learning. But I think the process, when you, it is coming from somebody who has actually got an ideal score. I would say for a lot of people, this is an ideal score.
Yes.
So it is not ratta, and let me make it very clear today, we do not do it that way. So at this point, I think I've almost read my NCERTs about 15 to 20 times.
Wow.
And I am very bad at memory. Even if you ask me what did I have yesterday for breakfast, I would not know. So that is not the key. I would say it is consistency. I have been sincere throughout like the 12th, and from starting the only goal was that I have to study every day.
Yeah.
And I think since we got the results, newspaper publications and everybody has been calling us, and they have only one question, which is how many hours did you study?
Yeah.
Because they were like, you must have studied 8 to 10 hours, but that was not the thing.
Then?
I was a very regular student. Even if you ask my teachers, I had 90% attendance in 12th also. So I would go to school, I would come back, and I am still a normal child. 2 days ago, I was a normal child, and 1 week after, I will still be a normal child. So I had a very normal routine. I would come from school, I would have my lunch, then I would rest, and I would study for 2 to 3 hours. Then again I would have a normal life. I would go out, maybe talk to my friends. So it was only...
Wait, hang on. So no tuitions, no...
No.
You got a almost perfect score without tuitions?
I think this is a very good platform to clarify that at least for board exams, it's not a competitive exam. It's not JEE, NEET, UPSC or CA that you need, I think, tuitions. The whole purpose of going to a school or the primary objective is to study those books. I think your parents are, because they're investing so much of money in your school, there is no purpose if you take extra tuitions. I am not saying that you shouldn't. If you need extra help, please. But from my perspective, because I have got the score without any tuition, it is not compulsory to get some extra help. your books are the key. It is not the person who's teaching you.
It's your own determination that
Yeah,
matters more.
both of you are saying, you know, we were
And
asking,
very, very
are you
wiser than your
studying?
age. Listen, I wasn't this wise when I was giving my 12th exams. I didn't know what's going on.
I
here.
love just hearing you both say, frankly, that you enjoy what you're studying.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like when you're saying, you know, you study multiple times that same book. So let me ask you a slightly different question. We'll come to you first, Ananya, and ask you that balance. Because at your age, you know, you'll have your parents, your teachers. Sometimes the parents are the kinds that they'll say, jaake padho. Study all the time. Sometimes you have parents who say, no, it's okay, have a balance, don't have a balance. But you're also an adult of a kind, almost. You know, you're a child becoming an adult. So at home, how did you navigate that conversation with your parents? Or in your case, did you just have very relaxed parents who said, do what you want?
One thing I'm grateful for is that my parents always said that it is extremely important to have a balance. They never asked me to, you know, sit at my desk all day. And I have never been that kind of person. I believe that everyone should have a routine that suits them. There's no universal routine that suits everyone. So I would study every day. I would study consistently since 12th started. I also went and met my friends every day. I went downstairs. So I maintained a balance. I spent time with my family. I spent time with my friends. I also went out. So it wasn't always just reading and studying and doing questions. So
can I leak the paper a little bit? Before both of them came on, I was chatting up with Shloka's dad, and I said, were you that kind of a parent who had to sort of constantly get after your kid to say padhai karo? He said, with Shloka we never had to. She's just so disciplined herself that she just did it, and I'm sure it seems like Ananya was pretty much the same case as well. But you know, so many years down the line now, since we have given our board exams, I want to ask you this. What is the value that these scores actually hold for you guys? I mean, you're in a studio now talking to, you know, a live audience, being inspiration now for so many people. But what does it mean to actually be a topper? Was it always a goal? And I mean, I don't know what life holds really ahead. Yeah, please, Shloka, go ahead.
So honestly, I think from the starting, I think a lot of people, even right now, a lot of my friends did not get their expected scores, and they were of course very
sad about it.
Yeah, they were very upset about it. So if I had to talk about from the starting in 12th, I was also that kid. I never wanted to be a national topper. I never wanted to be rank 1 or anything like that. I wanted a good score, and that was the only thing in mind. It was not like I had to get 99 or I had to get, you know, a perfect score. It was always that I wanted to get a good score, and that was my determination from the starting. So even right now, I think before the results also, I was studying from my entrances, and even in between this, all of this, I had to take out time for my entrance exams. So if I had to be honest, and if this is this
so
has
are
to
you
go,
then saying that just studying is in your hand, getting that perfect score, nobody can really calculate? Did you have friends, and Ananya, this question is for you as well, you know, who sort of are sort of frenemies in a way? They compete with you on numbers, they're also great friends with you. How does that work out?
yeah, that does happen. I mean, there's obviously always a little bit of competition, but as long as it's
Healthy one.
as long as it's healthy, it's okay. I also have people in school who scored like around the same percentage. So it's always been like that. Like they've been my classmates for 2 years ever since I chose this stream. So when you enter a particular stream and when you give a few of the exams like the PTs and everything, you figure out who your competition is. So, yeah.
So tell us one thing. So Shloka, I believe that you are someone who wants to do the UPSC at some point. Now the UPSC is going to be this times 3000 in terms of how much you're preparing, the fact that it does have that competitive topper element to it, and the fact that there's a whole almost cult around doing it, right? Thousands of people doing it every year. So now I want to ask you a little bit about mental balance. What do you, if we were to ask what's the secret to not letting the pressure get to you, especially in a situation where, like the UPSC exams, people are doing it year after year after year. You've not done it yet, but what do you think it is? What has it been for you so far?
Ma'am, honestly, even when I started my 12th preparation, which is not such a big thing when you compare it to competitive exams, I have always been somebody who takes stress, and it is not about studies, about everything, even small things. I do take stress. Okay. So I have in habit. And when it comes to pressure, I think the only pressure I get is from my own self, because even when the results came, my teachers, my parents, they know I was getting a good score. They were very relaxed. Even before the results, even after the results, they had a lot of confidence. They had a lot of belief in me.
But you?
But I mean, of course, for every child, I feel no matter how good your exams go, you will have an ounce or an inch of self-doubt, maybe what if I don't get the expected score. But if I have to be honest, I think I will definitely go for civil services. I will try, but if it doesn't work out, we will go for alternatives.
What a great approach already.
I honestly think that life doesn't stop at one exam. 1 week later, I think all of this media attention and all of this is just for 2 days or 3 days. Then I will also be a normal kid. Even today, I am a normal kid. And no matter what marks you are getting, I think the celebration should be for one day for everybody. It doesn't matter what your marks are or whether you're coming to news channels or not.
Oh man, guys, we wish we had more time to sort of deep dive into this, but big congratulations, Ananya, Shloka, to both of you for being, like I said, wiser than your age literally, and good luck with everything that you do in the future. This is also one side of Gen Z. We talk so much about them on the program and everything that's wrong with them, but this is also one side, and it's so cool to sort of have you guys here in the studio.
Good luck for the future. It has been lovely talking to both of you, but you're also both so calm and composed that it doesn't feel like we have any knowledge to give you. It's all stuff that we have to learn from you. But thank you for joining us right here on the show. Okay, we're going to be heading into a quick break. On the other side, we're not done yet with the Breakfast Club. Do stay with us.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
That was a fantastic discussion going on there, and I wish I could have joined you because it was really insightful. But we're joined by Lauren Dagan-Amos, who's in India specialist. She's a foreign policy expert. Thank you very much for joining me. There are many, Ms. Amos, there are many who are saying that if India was in such a strong position against Pakistan, why did it agree to what is effectively a ceasefire without preconditions? That is what is being said here in our country. First, what is your assessment of the Indian military action and its subsequent decision to agree to an understanding, so to speak, that has led to a ceasefire?
So thank you so much for having me here. It's a complex answer, but it's very straight. I don't think that India went to a ceasefire without agreements, without conditions. Okay. As you can see, this crisis, it's not the usual crisis between India and Pakistan. It's a strategic shift that India did in the foreign policy, in the strategy, defense policy. India responds not only with military efforts, but with a clear message. Terrorism will no longer be treated in a separate issue.
All right, next we're heading into money control. Let's take a look. All right, this is a special section on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's take a look first at the market overview. GIFT Nifty indicates a positive start for the day for Indian equities. Asian markets are trading lower as the euphoria of the US-China trade deal wears off. Crude oil fell on news that Iran may get relief on sanctions from the United States, and gold prices held steady on uncertainty in spite of US-China trade tensions easing.
All right, let's look at the sector in focus this morning. The demand for two-wheelers and motorcycles remain positive with the wedding season in full swing as well. Rural demand, which has been outpacing urban demand throughout 2024, is expected to continue to do so. And government measures to boost rural demand and also good cropping in the harvest season should help. The budgetary tax ops and the stable economic conditions is expected to spur demand, particularly for the entry-level two-wheelers as well. So that's a segment to look into, and you can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's automobile sector and various other actionable insights on the markets. It's a premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights you will ever need, brought to you by Money Control.
And with that, we draw our show to a close.
We'll see you again 8 o'clock. Ta-ta.
Brought to you by. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
That was a fantastic discussion going on there, and I wish I could have joined you because it was really, really insightful. But we're joined by Lauren Dagan-Amos, who's in India specialist. She's a foreign policy expert. Thank you very much for joining me. There are many, Ms. Amos, there are many who are saying that if India was in such a strong position against Pakistan, why did it agree to what is effectively a ceasefire without preconditions? That is what is being said here in our country. First, what is your assessment of the Indian military action and its subsequent decision to agree to an understanding, so to speak, that has led to a ceasefire?
So thank you so much for having me here. It's a complex answer, but it's very straight.